Trump meets with Japanese PM Abe in the Rose Garden at the White House on June 7. By Cherisme, Ner photo, Getty Images. About 4 years ago, the idea of a president not named Clinton or Rubio or Bush seemed almost fanciful, so it's a tribute to human adaptability that all of us can read, without a change of pulse, that drug offender Alice Johnson has had her sentence commuted as the result of a plea made by Kim Kardashian during an Oval Office meeting with President Donald Trump. And we count it as the week's good news. Less good has been the news that Trump has chosen to behave disrespectfully to close allies, to skip out early on a G7 meeting, and to pick a fight with Justin Trudeau, that he has been working to weaken Obamacare further, declaring parts of the healthcare law unconstitutional, and that his power of pardons, with the exception of Johnson, has been exercised in stingy, partisan, and haphazard fashion. Last week, Trump cleared the name of Dinesh D'Souza, one of the right's most cynical and dislikable actors, for reasons that looked like nothing more than cronyism. It was altogether fitting that Ted Cruz, widely lauded as the Senate's champion of dislikability, should have turned out to be D'Souza's advocate. In the category of we don't know yet news, we're seeing Trump flying to Singapore to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Monday. 3/4 of Washington seems to be hoping it will fail, Republicans because they hate North Korea, and liberals, including most pundits, because they hate Trump. Even Democrats are attacking Trump from the right over the upcoming meeting, either a gesture of cynicism or of sincere inflexibility. But a cessation of the Korean War and a Korean realignment, possibly as a counterweight to China, could be a triumph for both peace and realpolitik, regardless of what happens to the weapons. As Trump does all of these things, strange, unconventional, unpresidential, one overarching question seems to loom larger and larger: what do we do after Trump? When the Trump presidency ends, at the latest in 2025, we'll have to confront all the precedents he has been breaking, or setting. A race to the bottom becomes a serious possibility, and preventing it becomes an overarching challenge. It's easy to imagine, for example, a Democratic president succeeding Trump and choosing to break rules in many of the same ways, disregarding blatant conflicts of interest, permitting nepotism in hiring, using the power of pardons as a partisan tool, attacking the justice system when it goes after the White House for anything, or just igniting culture wars on turf that favors the left just as Trump does on turf that favors the right. Blue America could, with reason, say to Red America, how can you complain over this when you stayed silent over the same shenanigans coming from Trump? Unfortunately, it's just as easy to imagine a Republican successor who continues many of Trump's worst practices. Either way, things could escalate fast to institutional chaos. We're already a lot closer to that than we should be. For Trump's example to be disowned would require him to mess up seriously. This leaves us with an ugly dilemma. If Trump enjoys a lot of success, then he spawns many imitators. If he fails, then the country is severely harmed. To flesh this out, imagine that the economy stayed robust, deficits shrank, North Korea became a friend, the country stayed at peace, and Trump were forced to withdraw from politics after his first term. We'd see a legion of Trump wannabes, most of them glomming onto his worst traits. On the other hand, imagine that we were plunged into recession and armed conflict and Trump served a full 8 years. We'd see a repudiation of Trump, who'd become another George W. Bush, but the country would be a mess. Most of us would probably prefer, all things considered, to deal with a successful Trump-spawning wannabes rather than a country in massive trouble, but the longer Trump stays in office, the likelier trouble becomes. History records number 3D chess masters playing on a supernatural plane, at least not over the long haul. Even its shrewdest operators, like Caesar Augustus, Alexander the Great, or Otto von Bismarck, made serious mistakes in their games. Worst have been the leaders who kept winning improbable bets, bringing more and more skeptics to their side, until finally, after the last holdouts had surrendered, the day for payback arrived, bringing downfall. Trump has been winning a lot of bets. Maybe the best we can hope for is that Trump's presidency will prove to be, in the eyes of revisionist historians, a small one, a stretch that heralded big changes, in the form of fundamental and necessary political and ideological realignments in America, but saw only modest direct changes produced by Trump himself. A border wall, a peaceful form of defense going back millennia, would be a perfectly fine accomplishment, killing no one. We could call it a day. No matter what though, we may be best off post-Trump, seeking a red-blue truce built on the recognition that this president is like none we've ever had or ever will have. Trump is Rufus T. Firefly in charge of Fredonia. If Fredonia is to have a tolerable future, then everyone has to pretend, to whatever extent possible, that Firefly never happened. It would require a willingness to put aside the settling of scores. Ironically, the prospects of a truce might become brighter if, contrary to expectations of most in the center or left, or of this writer, investigations into the origins of Russiagate indeed do reveal malfeasance or grossly improper meddling by the FBI and U.S. intelligence agencies in the election of 2016. The stage would then be set for an armistice, with both sides admitting abuses and neither trying to weigh them against one another. Democrats would admit to crossing the line in going after Trump, and Republicans would admit that Trump's behavior should not have been countenanced. Without trying to compare severity of offenses, both sides would agree to a set of rules or principles to prevent the sins of Trump or his enemies from being committed in the future. This might all be a fanciful notion. Trump-style outbursts and tweeting and impulsivity and divisiveness and conflicts of interest and indifference to customary constraints on power might be a staple of the future. Democrats, back in the saddle, might prove willing to give just as good as they got. But maybe we can be hopeful. We know that an erosion of norms is the safest way to bet. But we also know that this is no way to live.